Hi, my name is Gordon Crenshaw. I'm a principal systems engineer with Progress Software, and today I'm going to talk to you how you can easily get started with Hadoop. There are several different Hadoop distributors out on the market. There's Cloudera, Apache, MapR. The one we're going to talk about today is Hortonworks. The great thing about these Hadoop companies is that they provide a sandbox of their distribution, which is basically a pre-packaged assembly of their Hadoop distribution, and you can use it as soon as you download it. You don't have to worry about building or downloading each of the individual components and putting them together and compiling any type of software. They've already got everything built for you. So all you have to do is download their sandbox and get it started. So why don't we first start with going to Hortonworks' website. So we'll go to hortonworks.com, and then we can find the sandboxes under Products, Download, and Install. And here you'll see at the very top the Hortonworks 2.2 on a sandbox, and they have several different packages that they've put together. You can pick whichever one you want. Each of the virtual boxes or virtual images, there's an install guide, and it gives you some guidelines on what the recommended configuration settings that you want to have. So for example, if we pull up the one for VirtualBox, it says that your host needs to have a 64-bit machine. You need to have a certain amount of RAM, like 4 gigabytes of RAM is a minimum, but if you're going to be using some of the other projects that are on the VM image, then you'll want 8 gigabytes. And that's actually the same if you're using VMware. So why don't we go in and download the image and start it up. So we'll click on For VMware, and it automatically starts the download process. Now once the download has finished, for VMware it comes as an OVA file, which is a compressed version of this virtual image. You'll want to use one of the players in order to start up the image. And VMware has a free player for Windows that you can go out to VMware's website and download. For the Mac, I'll be using VMware Fusion. So when you start up VMware Fusion, this is just a library, but we'll choose File, Import, and we'll choose the file. We'll go to the Downloads and choose the Horton OVA file that I just downloaded and click Open. And then we'll click Continue, and it'll ask to uncompress the VM image in a location. So just for this demonstration, I will create a folder called VMware on my desktop and have the VMware image placed into that directory. It'll take a few minutes for this VM image to import. Once it's finished importing, it gives the summary of what the settings are. I actually prefer to increase the memory for the virtual image just so it runs a little smoothly. So I'm going to go into my settings and double the amount of memory that is associated for this VM image. And then we can start it up. It'll ask if you want to upgrade, and I think that's just because the version of VMware that was used to build this VM image is older than the version that I'm running, so we'll choose to upgrade it, and it'll do it automatically for you. And then it'll take a few minutes for the VM image to boot up. Once Hortonworks VM image finishes starting, you get a screen that looks like this. And what's great about the Hortonworks distribution is that all the necessary services that you would possibly use would be automatically started, including the Hive service, which you could use our Apache Hive driver to connect to. And that default port number is 10,000. You see here that it provides you how you can access the Hadoop distribution. So you use the SSH command through a separate terminal window and log in with root, and this is the IP address for this virtual machine. The installation guide should tell you that the password for root is Hadoop, H-A-D-O-O-P, all lowercase. And if you want to initiate any type of Hortonworks sessions, you can go through a web browser using the IP address as well. And we'll actually do that to load data into Hortonworks. So let's take a look at that now. We'll go to our website and we will go HTTP 172.16.57.142. It'll ask to register. So we'll enter in and agree to the terms. Click submit, and then it brings up a welcome page and actually gives you this URL right here for logging into the administration panel of the Hadoop distribution. Now, as you can see, the IP address is not complete, and that's just because the IP address could be dynamic each time you load a new Hadoop distribution. So you're basically going to take the IP address that you've supplied of the Hadoop distribution and add :port 8000 to the end of it. So we'll go up here and add :8000 and hit return. And we're logged in. And as you can see, these are the versions of the software that's already installed onto this Sandbox. Now, if you want to load data into the Sandbox, then you would go to the HCatalog to do that. So we'll click on HCatalog and we'll click on the databases first. And it's loading the list of databases that are currently available on this distribution. And as you see, there's a default database and an HCdemo database. If you wanted to create a new database, you would just click on the link here, Create New Database. We'll click on the Tables menu, and as we'll see for the database default, we have two sample tables that we can use, one called Sample 07, one Sample 08. If we switch to the HCdemo, there's three tables we can use. But let's say we want to have our own data that we want to use, then we'll add that to the default database. We can do that very easily by clicking on the link, Create a New Table from File. That's if we already have a CSV file that has data in it, which I do. We'll click on that link, and you'll see over here, we'll scroll over to the right, there's a button here that says Choose a File, so we'll click that, and we'll click on Upload a File, and then we have the option to go and find our tables. So I have some CSV tables here that I'm going to upload. One of them is called this All Starbucks Locations in the World, and I think there's about 21,000 plus rows in this table, and we'll choose that. We need to give this table a name, so I'll just call this Starbucks. And then you can change the encoding, the delimiter. If it's different, it tries to auto-detect some of that stuff. My table, as we scroll down, you can see it already sampled some of the rows. The first row was actually the column names in this, so I want to make sure that Read Column Headers is checked. If you had a table that did not have column names as the first row, you would want to uncheck that as such, and then you can fill in the appropriate column names. But we will check that back, and you can also change the data types as well. Once we've selected the appropriate table and added all the columns to make sure the configuration is correct, we press the Create Table button. And once the table is loaded, then it'll bring you back to the table list page, and you'll see that our table is now loaded. We can either click on the table name or the Browse Data button, and it'll show you a sampling of the data that's in that table. And that's how you can load data into Hadoop.